You're watching the Forefront Church video podcast, and wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Good morning, everybody online and watching today. We have some audience participation here in a little bit, and so get some of those emojis and typing fingers ready. 10 a.m., how are we doing? Doing well? Oh, easy. Some of y'all are getting excited. It's a really bright and sunny day here at the beach, and so glad you guys had a chance to, use your boat to get here. And man, we're really bummed about our Fall Fest today. It was one of our most favorite days here of the year as a church, past Christmas and Easter. It's one of those days where we just get to celebrate and hang out with family and friends and our community. And so, yeah, it kind of looks a little crazy, but we've been so fortunate with all the different vendors and people and things. And as we get into today, as we're in our series, we've been in it for a few weeks now, looking at how to be a church in the city, how to be people that we are for others, that we will care for people, that we won't just be somebody who's like, we just kind of hang out here. We are for other people, and we want to go out and share with them. As we look at this topic of wisdom, I want us to have a little fun this morning to set the stage for what we're going to be talking about. And so we get to play a game, but you don't have to leave your seat. You don't have to be singled out, any of those things. Because I question some of the judgment that people have when it comes to especially food products. And so we're going to take some time to go, was it wise or not wise to do some of the things that people have done in boardrooms and decided and put that out for you and I? And so we're going to play a little game called Did They Pumpkin Spice It? And so in honor of fall and all things Fall Fest, you may have experienced this, you may be all about it, and so we'll explain how this game works. The pumpkin spice wizards are still cranking out pumpkin flavored stuff, and alarmingly, but let's be honest, some of you kind of love it. I do not. And so see if you can figure out if the following products have been pumpkin spice or not. Online, you can give an emoji, type the product, thumbs up or thumbs down. You guys here, you're going to play as a team, kind of across. You guys are going to play as a team here. And so you guys ready? We're going to play this. Half of you are. It doesn't matter. We're playing it anyway. And so you guys online are really excited. Here we go. Smoothie. Did they pumpkin spice it or not? Go over here. What do you guys think? Yeah? You guys say yes? What do you about you guys? There's like a collective kind of nod here. Yes, they did indeed spice it. And so the whole idea of pumpkin anything, just not okay. You may be into that. No, not me. Plantain chips. You guys all like, so we'll ask over here this time, what do you think? Spice it, not spice it? No, I'm hearing it's mixed reviews, guys. I hear yes, but I see a lot of nodding heads. We're going to go with no over. What about you guys? Yes, and then a lot of thumbs down. Thumbs up. You guys need to get it together, guys. All right, let's see here. They didn't spice it. No, not so much. What about potato chips? Spice it or not spice it? We'll jump over here. I'm hearing a collective, some no, mainly yeses. What about you guys? Yeah, okay. You guys online will see they didn't spice it. Thankfully, I've never had this, but it's a fun word to say, kombucha. Just say it with me, kombucha. Spice it or not spice it? You guys over here. Spite your collective yes. No, yeah, you guys are all over the place. All right, we'll see. They spiced it. I don't even really know what kombucha is, and I don't care. This is something I'm never going to eat, never will, kale chips. For my veggie friends, because if you're just giving up on life, kale chips are here for you. And so, did they pumpkin spice it? No, collective no across the board. What about you? Yes. No, one yes, the rest no's. They did spice it. All right, raw. Can we just talk about, I don't even know what's happening there. That's just a no on so many levels. Protein powder. You're going to get real swole. I'm hearing yes from everybody. You guys online, they did indeed spice it, so you can get pumped with a little basic girl pumpkin spice. This Snickers bar. Yeah, I'm hearing yes. I'm hearing a groan here. You're not really, you're like, oh. They didn't spice it because God is good. Ho-hos. Ho-hos. I hear yes. You guys online? They didn't spice it. No pumpkin spice in ho-hos. Twinkies. I'm glad they made a comeback. What do you guys think? No, I'm hearing no. You guys? Yes. They did indeed spice it. And he is here for it. Look how happy he is. He's like, we're pumpkin spice. In my personal not favorite, Peeps. I don't even eat them in normal format. Pumpkin spice? No, I'm hearing no. I'm hearing some yes, mainly no's. They did indeed spice it. It's just swimming in pumpkin spice, and it makes me want to visit the restroom. So I enjoy playing games like that. It's fun to be able to kind of connect and see these things. But here's what I have a problem with, is that somewhere in a boardroom, somebody was saying, hey guys, hey gals, what would be great, like for the kale chips, for instance. They're like, market share's real down. What can we do to like get it pumped up? I go, close business. But they're like, hey, what can we do? And somebody goes, you know what is going to put us over the edge? No more Twinkies, no more ho-hos. If we pumpkin spice it. And everyone like Family Feud in the meetings like, good answer. And they decided to pumpkin spice these things. And there's plenty of products, and I don't know where you're at, like different products that put this in. But at some point in a meeting, someone said, that's a good idea. Everyone eventually had a consensus, they agreed, and they put out these products. But it's like the scientist that Jeff Goldblum played in Jurassic Park. You had so much time asking if you could, you didn't stop to ask if you should. There's wisdom in being able to take a step back and say, hey, is this good? Is this okay? When it comes to faith, there's a lot to be said for being able to take a step back and look at ourselves and take an assessment, an inventory of our lives and go, should I step in this direction? Because you see, every single person, when they make a choice, they do believe that they know better in their choice, in their wisdom. Nobody walks in really, if you really think about it, making a choice going, I think this is an awful decision. Everybody goes like, I'm making this choice and I think it's really great, but sometimes we don't learn from our choices, which is why Taco Bell's still open. Like we don't learn from where we've been and what we've done and what has happened. And I wonder for us what God has to say when it comes to wisdom. Because if we're going to be a church for our city, individuals that care about others, we have to be able to understand and trust in his wisdom. And we're again going to be this week in the book of 1 Corinthians. So if you have a Bible, you guys online, you could turn over there. If you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free in the lobby. There's no catch. Or you can go over to our .info page, swipe up until you get to the notes section, and everything's right there. And at the very end of your notes, you can email those back to yourself. But before we go over there, and we'll be in 1 Corinthians in the New Testament of the Bible, I want to see, for us, what does the Bible have to say about wisdom? And there's one of the greatest books that you and I can go to in the Bible for wisdom, and that's the book of Proverbs. It's chock full of amazing, just gobs of wisdom and how you and I can live according to God's purposes. And so we're going to take a few just to remind ourselves, what does God have to say about this? One of the writers shares that the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. Maybe you've been there where someone's come to you and they say, hey, I have a problem. I need to ask you about it. And so you listen and then you give advice. And then more often than not, once you've given that advice, that person goes and doesn't do anything you said. And you're like, that was pointless. And then a little while later, they come back and they go, man, I have this situation. It's really happening. You go, oh, deja vu, I've been here before. And they ask the questions, and you give the answers, and you give the advice, and then they go away, and they don't do what you said. And you go, I don't think that they're listening. This is foolishness. That they go, I'm going to ask for advice. I'm going to ask for what's true, and I'm just not going to do it. Some of the writers share this, that precious treasure in oil in a wise man's, precious or treasure in oil in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. What are we doing with what we've been given, with our time, with our resources, all of it? Whoever trusts in his own mind is a fool, but he who walks in wisdom will be delivered. And then again, the writer says, a fool gives vent to his spirit, full vent to it. But a wise man quietly holds it back. The half-brother of Jesus, James, he shares that we should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I wonder what kind of world we'd live in if, we're leading into an election year. Whew. If we would heed that advice, man, our feed on social media would be a much different place. That turning on the news would be a much more enjoyable experience. And so how can we dive into God's wisdom? Because I believe this. We need to ask this question. Is it possible that wisdom as we know it, as we hold on to it, may not be the same wisdom that God intended? Because we think of wisdom and we think, oh, somebody that's old and gray, that's been around and experienced a lot, that probably has a bunch of initials in front of their name. They've gone and they've studied and they've learned and those things. And I've met plenty of people who are very knowledgeable that aren't all that wise. You see, there's a big difference between earthly wisdom and godly wisdom. And so today we're just going to take a look at how you and I can be better for God and others by learning biblical wisdom. And this guy, Paul, that we've been looking at, he started a bunch of churches, and he wrote back letters to the churches saying, hey, I want to help you in things you're doing great at and encourage you. And then there's some ways where you don't have it all together, kind of like a parent. He said, hey, I want to encourage you, but hey, I want to guide you as well. And he starts sharing these words. And this church is great because it's a church around the same size as Forefront Church. It's a church in a city that's much like, in almost every way, like the city of Virginia Beach during these biblical times that we can look at Corinth in Greece and go, wow, the parallels that we can learn are absolutely amazing. And this is what Paul shares starting in verse 18 of that first chapter. It says, the message of the cross is foolish to those who are headed for destruction. But we who are being saved know it is the very power of God. And then he decides to kind of remind them, because many of these people who claim faith would have learned from the Old Testament writings that were during that time. He says, as scriptures say, and it's kind of a reminder, they would have already learned this, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, this earthly wisdom, and discard the intelligence of the intelligent. Basically what he's saying in this is people are going to think that God saving mankind is bonkers. That the people don't deserve that. We think when we're wounded, when we're wronged, what do we want? We want revenge. We want justice. We want payback. We want to see them pay for what they have what? Done. And so people hearing this would go, wait a second. So mankind turns their back on God and moves this way, and God, instead of going like the celestial curmudgeon in the sky, going and zapping them, he then sends Jesus to bridge the gap and to bring us back, that it's nothing that we do, that it's all in him. That's crazy. Why would God do something like that? And Paul continues on in writing this letter. So where does this leave the philosophers, the scholars, the world's brilliant debaters? God has made the wisdom of this world look foolish. Since God in his wisdom saw to it that the world would never know him through human wisdom, he has used our foolish preaching to save those who believe. Time and time again, God said that the earthly wisdom cannot compare to trusting him, which is why, and when he says that foolish preaching, he's not just talking about a normal everyday person staying on a stage giving a message. He's saying your life and mine, when we encounter people, they'll see, you know what? Something's different about you. That the way that you react when life hands you something that most people would implode, that you move differently. That you, when someone has wronged you, a neighbor, a friend, someone stabbed you in the back, you don't respond like I would. I would be like, oh no, here, hold this, we about to, and throw down. You go, no, can I care for you? What's going on in your life? And because something must be happening for you to act that way towards me and towards others. That people would see it and they go, that sounds ridiculous. Why do you do that? And you go, because Jesus has changed my life. He has done something in my life that has transformed me. And Paul, as he's writing this, continues on to the very people that would be in the community there with them, in a diverse community, much like ours. He said it's foolish to the Jews who first ask for signs from heaven, and it's foolish to the Greeks who seek human wisdom. So when you preach that Christ was crucified, that Jesus came, died, conquered death so that mankind could be made new, the Jews are offended, and the Gentiles say, it's all nonsense. The Jews are saying, hey, we're waiting for somebody else. Jesus isn't it. And what Paul and other believers are saying, you don't need to wait for anybody else. It is found in Jesus, not a future person. To everybody else, they go, that isn't logical. I don't believe that because of what I've seen, of what I've experienced. People aren't like that. And what the believers are saying is, listen, yes, people aren't like that, but God is, and it's through Jesus. But what he's really saying is everybody's offended by Jesus. They're going to find something. They're going to find something about you following Jesus. Does it sound familiar? That culturally, being a Christian isn't something where everybody goes, you know what? That's amazing. Unless you're attending the Country Music Awards, that most often than not, I mean, just this past week or so, like somebody got up and prayed. There wasn't any backlash. Like everybody joined in. If that happened at the MTV Video Music Award, that'd be a totally different thing. I don't think that would go over well. I don't think it would go over well at like the hip hop awards. That probably, they'll thank God and then be like, beep, 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 and the whole thing. But like there isn't going to be, it would be very, very different. And so I wonder as we're going through this, as we're looking and going, all right, I want to be where God is in his wisdom. Does the thought, and I'm just asking this, does the thought of God wanting to change your life encourage you or frustrate you? Because yes, God finds you where you are and loves you where you are, but he loves you and I too much to let us stay that way. You see, I hear people say, oh, God loves me just the way I am, and they put a period at the end of that sentence, and that's not accurate. You see, God loves you exactly where you are, comma, but loves you too much to stay where you're at. Every single one of us have room to grow, room to learn, room to be who he designed us to be. You see, it was back in 1999 that I was doing student ministry and loving every bit of it. I worked mainly with middle school kids. And so we went on a trip. We were doing a missions trip and then had some fun moments along the way. And there were a bunch of kids with us. It was great. The student ministry at that time had about 100 middle and high school kids that were in it. We had our own service, the whole deal. And so we took all of our middle school kids in vans and cars and buses and went on this missions trip down to Atlanta. And we're doing our thing and all that. And one of the kids comes up to me and I'm just standing there trying to, because it's basically like herding cats when you're around middle schoolers. And so he runs up and, Mr. Jason. I say, hey, buddy, you just Jason, it's fine. And he's like, hey, I lost my hat, which I'm thinking, yeah, you probably did lose your hat because you're in middle school. And I don't know if you're a parent of a middle schooler and you've hit a stage where you're like, what is happening? In there, scientifically, it's part of their DNA. They are dropping things that they learned so they can make room for this next stage of life. So when you think to yourself, my middle schoolers losing their mind, you're right. They are literally losing things that they were learning before to make room for new stuff. So when they're like, I can't find my jacket, where's my jacket? You're wearing your jacket. Oh, okay. So when this kid said, I lost my hat, I was like, okay, sure. Where'd you put it? I don't know, I don't remember. And I'm like, go backtrack, whatever. Didn't worry about it. Well, later on, I looked at, I was hanging out as they were playing, doing their thing, and I saw one of the bags that wasn't this kid's, but his hat was in it. And so I look in, and of course, he had the mom that writes their name and everything so they don't lose it. And so I was like, cool, it's this kid's hat, but it wasn't his bag, and I knew the kid. So I asked the other kid that it was in his bag, I said, hey, I don't know, did he, I don't know, maybe he misplaced it, whatever. And so I just which could totally happen, because middle school. And so I'm like, fine. But then all through the trip, things started missing. I was like, man. And sure enough, this kid had been taking and stealing a bunch of things. And so get back from the trip, and I asked his mom to come up, and we were talking. I said, hey, your son we found he was stealing a bunch of stuff. And, oh, my son wouldn't do that. And you may be that parent. Your kid can do no wrong. I want to let you know your kid can do wrong. Sometimes you need to believe the other adults in the room, okay? Don't always jump, my kid can do it. They're perfect. One, they're not perfect. You're in denial. You're kind of lying to yourself anyway. And so she immediately jumped to, my kid can do no wrong. And I realized very quickly, she was always defensive. She had started coming to our church just not too long ago, and she was in a small group, and people had been trying to speak in her life. There were, single mom men in and out of the picture. And so I was kind of sizing up, and I said, hey, and she's like, whatever. And her son stopped coming. She told him he didn't have to come. Well, a couple weeks later, she got mad because someone had tried to speak into her life. And usually when we bolt, when people say what's true in our life, it's because we're not ready to really hear it. It's not because that person isn't right and isn't true. They love you, but more often than not, people bounce because they don't like to be told that their life needs to change. And so they left. And so 2 years didn't hear from this family. Well, sure enough, we're doing our thing. And so I'm getting ready for our teen service. And this mom and the son, 2 years later, hadn't heard from them. They walk into a church. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And it even happens here. If you leave for a while and you come back, I know life happens, and somebody share with you, no one ever think, and I don't think like, where have you been? I think like, man, that's awesome. It's so good to see you guys. She drops them off at service, and she pulls this paper out of her pocket, and it's all folded up, and it's pretty thick, and she hands it to me. If you ever hand somebody a note that you think they're going to read, but you're embarrassed by it, you run. And so she hands it to me and just like down the hallway, like Carl Lewis, she is gone. And so she runs down the hallway to our adult service and get the kids started. And I open up, and it's this long letter, and I want to read to you just a short part of what she wrote at the very end of the letter. She shared backstory, the whole thing, and sure enough, we had known like, hey, these guys are not good. They've been in and out of the house, and the reason that son was acting out was because he was, I need attention because mom has 5, 6, 7 different guys at any time coming through the house. He wanted attention. He was acting out in this way. She unpacks all that backstory, and then she gets to this part. I left because I thought I knew better. I thought I knew better. My kid could do no wrong in my eyes. People that coached me were wrong. Why? Because it was about me. I was about me. It took 2 years of my time and me time to realize that all the wisdom that was being told to me was right on time for me. I just wasn't ready to show up. I was wrong. Jesus put people in my life, and I should have listened. Paul keeps writing to them. Jesus is the power of God and the wisdom of God. For foolishness of God is wiser than any human wisdom. At God's most lowest IQ point, which is still huge compared to us, way more wise than we are. And the weakness of God is stronger than any human strength. The Message paraphrase shares it this way. It says, human wisdom is so tinny, so impotent, next to the seemingly absurd amazement of God. Human strength can't begin to compete with God's weakness. If you don't hear anything else, my prayer is that you hear this. If you're going to serve others, if you're going to care for others, it has to start individually between you and Jesus, which is very difficult because that wisdom is, why would he do that? Why would he care for me? Why would he love me? It's always and only Jesus. All those other things that you try to supplement it with pale in comparison to Jesus. You see, knowledge has power. You can be an amazing intellectual. I love those kinds of conversations. What I don't like is when people just want to debate theology all day long. I go, man, I'd really love to go talk to people who don't know Jesus about Jesus. You can go debate with somebody else because that's wasting my time. You see, knowledge is great, but actions show who you really believe in. And so the question that we should ask ourselves in this quest for godly wisdom is, what do your actions say about who you trust? What does your life say about who you believe in? You see, there's actions that we can see of people who think they're wise in their own mind. The first one that we would look at is obdurate. And so for many of us, we go, what does obdurate mean? I love listening to podcasts and other things, but I will pause them frequently as soon as I hear a word, and then I will go over to the thesaurus and look it up, or dictionary and look it up and try to find, like, what does this word mean? Obdurate means stubbornly refusing to change one's opinion or course of action no matter what has been told them. You immediately thought of somebody who you would label obdurate right now. It's our nature to do that. I'm sure none of us go, that's me. That's who I am. Nobody thinks that. Nobody goes, I'm really stubborn. But you know what I love is that the Bible can reveal, the Bible is such a mirror, is such a revealer of the inner man, the inner woman. You see, wise followers listen to counsel. That passage in Proverbs we read, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. I love that song Stronger that they did by Britney Spears, pre-shaved head. And some of y'all got that. And it took stronger than I was yesterday. How are you today in following Jesus, in listening to others than you were yesterday? Take an assessment, take inventory, and look at that. One of the other pieces that we can see in this, these actions of people who are just, I'm wise, I'm honest. It's all about the one and only. Numero uno. It's about me. It's about my wants, my desires, my dreams. You have to have it your way. One of the things that I love is, again, that the Bible reveals that wise followers have resources to give. Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. Now, what I don't want you to hear is we say about one and only that if you are wise, that you will be overly financially wealthy. You will never hear that from the stage. I've been following Jesus for a long time, and that's not the case for me. But can you look at your life? Are you about one and only or about others? Do you have the resources to be able to care for people with your time? Are you so busy that you have no time to help other people? Or are you wise in how God has wired you and you've said no to certain things so that you can see a need and you can meet that need and go, I'm going to care for someone that's hurting? For some of you, you are someone who has financial resources that are well beyond what you need. And that's beautiful. How do you use those resources to care for others, to build God's kingdom, to look at people who are hurting and say, I could take care of that? I love my wife's spirit because while we're not like, hip hop baller status. We don't make it rain at the Bedell household, okay? If we do, it's in like quarters, all right? Yay, here. That when my wife sees a need, she'll immediately look at our monthly budget and go, what can we do? That's always her reaction. What can we do to care for some? Can we get them a meal gift card? Can we do something for them that would care for their kids? Can we give them a night out and like take care of their night out just so we can like care for that person or that family? What can you do as someone, and take inventory of this? If you can go, man, I can't remember the last time that I cared for others, that I use those resources, then there's a chance that it's about you, the one and only, instead of being about others. And that's not a condemnation of you. It's saying, hey, take inventory, reveal that, and say, how can I shift? How can I change to be more like God in the wisdom that He provides? The other piece of that is someone who thinks they're wise is just outrage. You've probably been around someone who's been this, surely it's not you, because none of us think we're unwise, that everything makes them mad. And I would ask you, what triggers you? If you see a political post or watch the news or rudeness, maybe somebody's cruel, maybe in public they're a loud cell phone talker, they don't use their blinker in traffic, people who cut in line, I don't know, so last ones are kind of joking, sort of. What triggers you and gets you angry, gets you outraged? Because here's what I know about people who live in wisdom. Wise followers aren't easily offended. If you follow Jesus and you are acting wise, that's why I love, a fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man, a wise woman, a wise person quietly holds it back. Here's something that we need to know. Not everything needs your opinion. I know Facebook asks, what are you thinking? Sometimes you need to log off and not tell Facebook what you're thinking. Because it's not going to be, I love the way that the writers of the Bible describe that while a lot of things may be permissible, is it beneficial? Am I leaving people better than I found them? Am I adding value to someone's life? I love this, and so I would leave you with 3 words where you may be at and to help you, and then 3 words that you need to move in when it talks about offense. Because if you're easily offended at everything, maybe you need to get over offense. Just get over it. Well, Jason, that's really hard. You did not see what so-and said. I would lovingly tell you, I don't care. Get over offense. In the grand scheme of eternity, is it really that big of a deal? Maybe we need to replace those 3 words with love others unconditionally. We don't know what they're going through, where they've been. Well, you don't know what they said to me or my family or whatever. I don't care. Get over yourself and love people because you don't know what they've been through. In this world, this existence isn't about us because it's always and only Jesus. That knowledge, you can be as biblically knowledge as you want to and have amazing, but actions show who you really believe in. Let's revisit single mom friend who was gone for 2 years and then came back. That was back in 1999. It's 2019. Still friends with this person. See them on Facebook doing their thing. They're still very much engaged in church. One of the things that they realized very quickly is she was taking inventory and had women that came around her. She was, man, these people that are coming in and out, these men that I'm with, they are causing detriment to my boy. So she stopped. She said, until God heals me, I need nothing to do with these relationships because my first priority is God and then my kid. And then women started pouring into her life. Now, today in 2019, she leads a women's ministry where she purposely coaches, cares for, and invests in single moms. That she looks for them and go, hey, know what? In the same phrasing that we use here, love God, love you, love God more than you. Hey, that guy isn't right for you. And then when that person goes, I can't believe it, she goes, let me tell you a story about when I walked away from the church for 2 years. And I learned that all those people that were sharing those things were absolutely right. And you walking away will do nothing because you know what? You're mad and your anger and your problems will go with you because you're still there. That's why when people move, I need a fresh start. And then they go, I can't believe this happened in my new city. Why? Because you're there. You went with you. So did your problems. And so if you don't, yeah, we want to be in this always only Jesus for, knowledge is great, but who are we acting in? How are we living? What does it say about us? And I want you to hear this, that your breakdown is God's breakthrough. So you can be whole and healthy and there when others break down. That is a church for the city. That is your life being poured into other people. And that thing that you are wrestling with right now, it is that moment that God swoops in. It says, I love you, I care for you. I have more in store for you. Just let it go and let me handle you and mold you. Because when you and I do that, it's God's opportunity to elevate his son, to elevate your worth, to elevate every bit of how he made you. And then you can go out and help other people with the same breakdown. So that when they're hurting and you're out in our city and you're caring for people and you're bringing person after person after person, we're going to watch somebody get baptized after our third service today. Why? Because when God invests in someone's life, he and his wife and their family got invited by somebody else who had a breakdown and God helped them and God had a breakthrough and then they spoke into their life in their breakdown and now they're here and now they're serving and now the husband's going to get baptized. Why? Because someone said, it isn't about me. Who will be in heaven because of you? It starts with your relationship with Jesus, and that can happen today. But that choice is yours. Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in. And we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you and we'll see you then.